Well, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle, for taking the time to speak with me and share your experience so far in the overage business. Um, just to start off, kind of give us a background of yourself, how you found out about this, and what kind of drew you into the overage world, so to speak.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to give you the abridged version of my background, right? So we can get right into the meat of things. But was in corporate America, and after many years, I decided I wanted to do something different. And I was a real estate agent too, so did that for about 10 years and just decided I wanted to do something a little different. So was in corporate America, real estate. And then I was like, I've always wanted to invest in real estate. And, just decided, okay, I need to do that. So tax liens was always something that was, planted right here. My grandfather used to purchase tax liens. And I remember him saying, see that house over there? I got it for the taxes, and I never knew what that meant, right? And so fast forward, fell into some training probably in early 2000. And so I took the training, and that's kind of what happened. Took the training and got that bug, and purchased some tax liens. And in that class, there was a gentleman, and he told me about overages. And I was like, well, what is that? Right. And so he told me, I'm like, oh, are you serious? And again, I was like, well, these two work well together. They both well together. And he provided me someone else's training. He told me about them. And that just became so do it yourself, PDF-ish. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to execute, right? Great information, great content. And so now I just started typing in overages in YouTube, and then you popped up.
Okay.
And so what I liked about you was that you just seemed like a hometown guy that wanted to help people. You weren't flashy. Nothing you didn't have like a script in front of you to make sure you were saying the right word. You were just like, here I am, take me as I am. And I just happened to come across this, and I want to share it with you. Here's my background. I used to make this, you just were really transparent and open. And I just felt like I could learn a lot from you. And so that's kind of how I got connected to overages and ultimately to you.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about your grandpa. That's so cool. He actually bought tax liens.
He
Okay.
actually purchased tax liens in a small town in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, he did.
That's cool. Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, cool. So that's awesome. You had some real estate background. You found me on YouTube.
Mhm.
And you went through my program, my course.
Yes.
And what have been some of maybe the challenges that you faced in this business since you
Yeah. So I would say the first thing is that I purchased your digital on-demand digital course first. And so the challenge was just setting time aside to take the course, right? And because I was working on doing something else. And so then I saw that you had I'm going to call it the elite, or the
Yep.
elite program. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that because I can have the face to face and get questions answered. And that's what I needed. And that is kind of what took me to the next level to execute. So some of the challenges once I finished the class, I would say, just the confidence, just making that first call. And after that, now you're becoming more aware of messaging, scripting, objections, and things of that nature. But I would say just really having the confidence in making those calls, and probably is one of the challenges, because I'm just not that salesy really cold calling. I love to talk, but I'm not that cold calling person where the person on the other end doesn't even know me. And I don't like objections. So But that became okay because when I got the first deal, I felt like going to the races.
Yeah.
Like he didn't even sign anything yet. And I was like, I gotta send the paperwork. I was like, let me make phone calls. And I went to the races.
Yeah.
But what makes this a little different is that even though people may not believe, you know in your soul that you're doing a good thing. You're not trying to take their house away, but you've got a good message to give them.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to get through the minutia and get over that to say, look, please listen to me. I get it. You don't know who I am, and just kind of being kind of, raw and open. I remember having a call with somebody and they said, I think I got an email from somebody maybe like a month ago. And I thought it was someone else, right? And so I was like, look, whether it's me you use or someone else, please just go through the process. The money's there. It's real. It's not a scam. And so long story short, the email she got was actually from me.
Oh.
So that was funny, right? But I would say just realize just the confidence and which is just what you go through anyway. So that was it for me, is just being confident, being okay if somebody hung up the phone on you, being okay if someone maybe cursed you out, being okay because your message is your message, and so you just have to know people will accept it, some people won't, and just and be okay with it.
Yeah, I love that. That's that last thing you said, we do have a good message. Like we're bringing them
Yeah.
good news.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, everyone's got a choice, though. They can accept it or they can't. And, I love that because it's important to remember that, because if someone does say no, then that means there's someone else that's probably ready and willing to say yes. And,
Yeah.
I really resonate kind of with what you said, because when I first started, I struggled with that too, where it's just like, I don't want to make the phone calls. I don't come from a sales background. But once you really understand that it really is a true service you're providing to people, then kind
Mhm.
of that, and once you get that first one, that first yes is hard to get. But once it comes,
Yeah.
okay, let's keep, you have that momentum, right? And you
You
start.
have the momentum. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So that's perfect. That actually segues right into kind of what I want to talk about next. And that's because you've been successful, you've had a successful deal.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that story, about the deal and how you found the
Yeah.
person, and give us some
Yeah.
details on that, if you wouldn't mind.
So that one actually, look, and I don't know what camera I'm looking with, where I'm looking. Am I okay looking this way?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're good. Yeah.
So this was interesting. This was really easy. I
Okay.
sent an email. One day I said, I kind of went back and forth with making phone calls first and sending emails second. Sending
Okay.
emails first, phone calls second. So this is one night I just sent a lot of emails. And I have a Google number.
Okay.
And so that was in June, and I'm going to say maybe beginning of June. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call on my Google number, right? And I was like, okay, who's this calling? And the woman, told me she received my information, and I said, okay. I said, perfect. And just she told me address. Oh no, she told me name. I know more addresses than names, or like I remember addresses probably because I used to be a real estate agent too, and all that. So I remembered the address, and so she told me the address, and I ran upstairs and looked at sent emails, and so understood how much she could have had in overages, and it was that easy. I sent an email. She called 2 weeks later, and hadn't received a phone call from anybody else, and she was like, "I'm ready to sign up." I didn't have to talk to her more about it. She probably looked at my website, learned enough about it to have a little confidence in the process, right? And now I guess it was just trying to find out, who am I, right? And so I'm going to say we probably talked for maybe 5 minutes, and I just still went over with how the process works. And she was like, okay. And I was like, okay. I said, well, let me just send you the paperwork and let me verify your email address. And so she did. and she didn't have access, and this still was okay because she didn't have access to a printer. I want to even say a laptop. And
Oh,
so
wow.
she always had to go to UPS,
Oh,
you know, to send stuff. And so she was so professional. She would say, at 9 o'clock a.m., I'm going to be at UPS and you'll have it by 12. Like, it was really
wow.
easy with her. Yeah,
Yeah.
my first one was really easy. And this is what really almost brought me to tears and realize this is different. This is different than wholesaling and calling people and saying, I want to take your house. Are you going to sell? Because the house is already gone, right?
Yeah.
So this is something one they're not expecting and it's lucrative to them. So this woman had to leave her home, and I don't know all the details per se, but she had to leave her home to take care of her mother,
Oh, wow.
her aging mother. And so that's kind of the situation. She's a caregiver now.
Uh,
And so, she would, I guess that's part of her being organized. She would leave at 9, all that stuff. And she wanted me to kind of she was really ready to get this money, really, but she was just really professional and easy to work with. So all that said, she lost the house. And so when she got the money, she called and she was like, thank you, Danielle. And I said, you got it? And this is before I got it, right?
yeah.
She was like, thank you so much. I said, you got it? She said, yeah. She's like, wow, thank you for being patient. Thank you for calling me. And I was just like, she's like, this is really going to help me. And she just was like, I remember the day you called, and I did question whether this was real. So again, thank you for being patient. And I wanted to say, well, thank you for being patient because you were my first deal and I gave you a document I shouldn't have gave you, and all this stuff, right? So and I did thank her too, and I'm glad that I was able to help her and that she received the message. Because it was 21,000 in overages that was due to her. So, that could be life changing for a lot of people, pay off some debt, whatever. So I was glad that she said yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you helped her get 21,000, and it was, what was it, a 70-30 split? I can't remember.
It was a
70-30.
70-30
Nice.
split. Yeah. It
Yeah,
was a
that's
70
great.
30 split.
That's great.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
so cool. I actually, yeah, man, I wish they were all like that. I wish all the cases were.
I know. Look, you've had 1.2 million cases, so you run the gamut in your experience. But yeah, that was a good one. Now I've got a few more that are more challenging. And again, my goal is to get laser focused because I kind of went on vacation like we talked about and all that stuff. So now I've got to get laser focused. But what I have realized, and again, I'm not the salesperson, I'm more marketing, is that, and you teach this in the class, is that you've got to set aside time to do this business. You
Yeah.
got to make the phone calls. You got to do those activities, right? To get you the business, to get the deal. And so, those activities are just making phone calls, sending emails, sending text message, all that. So, for about 2 weeks, and it was when I got this deal, and it's so powerful, is that's what I did for 2 weeks. It was early in the morning, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
I did activities, and I did it for the next week, and that's when this deal came.
Yeah.
So, that's what I have to get back to, is just setting aside, this is the time that I do overages, point blank, period,
Yeah.
So that's where I've got to get back, because I've got a list of about 350 people.
Oh, wow. That's a big
That, look, I started pulling since October of last year. So this woman was on the list from October, because remember, I started your elite program in October. So this was an October list from last October.
from last year.
I didn't call because I was so focused on new people. I was like, I went out. Oh, so listen, I also went, which I think I told you, is I went to an actual auction
Yeah.
because I was like, I'm gonna, hit it hard. I'm gonna get these new people. I even knocked on doors.
Wow.
So like a week before, I knocked on doors, and the two doors I knocked on, the people didn't live there anymore. One, well, let me say this. One didn't live there. One had someone cleaning the house.
Mm,
And so the woman didn't speak English, and it
yeah.
didn't work. And so I gave up on that. But I still think there's the value in that. But anyway, so I was like, that's old stuff. People probably have connected. Let me start new.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was doing for a while. And then something told me to go back to October's list.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
that's what I did. And that's how I got this deal.
Interesting. That's actually, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that's a really good point to stress, is that there is so much money out there that even there's even old files that the money is
Right.
just sitting there. Like this one you just said was a year old from last
Yeah.
October.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting. I actually had a call today with someone that we sent paperwork to, and they've got money coming to them, but their foreclosure was in 2018. Three,
Ah,
but it's still there, still waiting for
yeah.
someone to help them,
Yeah.
So that's I'm glad you brought that up, is there's there's always new deals being made every single day
Yeah.
with the new tax sales and new foreclosures, but there's also a lot of old stuff that's just sitting there.
Yeah. That's sitting there. Right.
I
Right.
have, I want to ask you one other question. When you mentioned those 2 weeks where you dedicated time, how much time per day would you say you dedicated to
Mhm.
doing the contacting?
I would say about 3 hours a day.
Okay.
About 3 hours a day.
Okay.
And the groove I had to get into, because there's so many. You could go horizontal, you could go vertical. And I know, on our calls, our coaching calls, that's a lot of people had kind of, do I go horizontal, vertical, all that. So I started, which it felt better, is to focus on three people.
Mm,
Because I was going, if it was 50 people on the list, I would go down. I would go, what's that? Vertical, up and down, right? I would go vertical and do the level one, right?
yep.
And I just felt like I'm not, this doesn't feel good. It feels like I'm not getting. And so I just decided to focus on three people. And then it went to five people. But let's just say I focused, I believe, on five or so people. And I went horizontal.
Yep.
I went deep into that one person's file. And then that's kind of how it started. So I did start with that week sending, because again, this week was like I was really getting a little frustrated and really wanted to start testing things. So
Yeah.
I do remember copying, pasting emails, and then just sending, emails, right? So everybody's email with that one record, with that one claimant, right? Just copy paste all their emails. So I did that. So I kind of did that. Then I started making phone calls, etc. So I think what got, okay, here's a good word, overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
So it got overwhelming. And then that's what got me to the three or five claimants that I wanted to focus on. But I would say it was about 3 hours a day. Sometimes it went a little longer because I got caught up.
Mm,
And, but I would say I was giving at least 3 hours a day of making contact. So that's emails or
yeah.
phone calls.
And it's
Yeah.
Monday through Friday, so about 15 hours a week.
Yeah, about 15 hours a week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to clarify for those maybe watching, when you say vertical and horizontal, vertical meaning you were only contacting the actual claimant, but then
Right.
horizontal, you're actually contacting the claimant, their relatives or associates.
Neighbors, associates, all that stuff. Exactly.
That's that's
Exactly.
that's a huge key right there.
Yeah.
Golden nugget. Awesome.
Yeah. It just and I know everybody's, their groove is different, but I just felt like at first, like, it's the claimant that I really want to talk to. Let me do that. And then through just talking to your other students that I've built relationships with, and then you coaching, etc. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, right?
Yep.
And then, just realized that I think I need to go deeper, because it's almost like I'm building a relationship with this one person versus going real top level. And you made a statement once that either validated or made me change. I'm not sure, but you said most times it may not be level one or the claimant that you're going to get in contact with.
Right.
So yeah.
Yep. That's awesome.
Hmm.
Awesome golden nugget.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. I mean, number one, again, congrats on your first deal. That's really cool. And thank you so much for sharing with us. I think some key takeaways that I would say is, sounds like it's just building that consistency, finding that groove, developing
Yeah.
a habit. That's kind of the key, or was the key to getting you
Yeah.
that first deal. And I think that's for all of us. I think it's that consistent effort doing the right things that's what yields the result. So
Yeah. Agree.
I guess before we sign off, what other advice would you give someone who may be looking into getting into this business?
Yeah, and this is something that Nick has not told me to say. He has not coached me on any of this, actually. But more importantly, I want to make it clear that he has not coached me on how I'm going to answer this question, because this validates him and uplifts him in his efforts in helping others. But I would say the main thing is training. Is a lot of times we get so overwhelmed. Here's that word again, with all these different people offering training, especially in this new world order of social media, purchasing courses online and, all that. And so, once you narrow things down, one, you need the training, right? And then you try to narrow things down. And so I want to narrow things down and say that you should take his training for so many reasons. One, again, Nick is just a good person. He just has a really good spirit. He's got a good soul, and he's not, and I don't know this, Nick, but I feel like the money is great, but you're really doing this because you want to help others achieve what you have achieved. You talk about your humble beginnings. And so I just feel like this is just something you want to share with others so they can reap the benefits. And that's just, I've met you or connected with you a year. And so it's been a year, and just having these calls with you, with coaching, and just all the videos that I watched at first, that's just what I get from you. And so there's other coaches or folks that are experts in this and other things. And sometimes they're just flashy, and that's what I just loved about you, is that you were real simple. You were simple, and you had a message, and you wanted to share. And it wasn't about lining your pockets. You didn't show me that you were on a jet. I don't know what kind of car you had, like all that stuff. And so that's what I liked, and that's what made me, hit the button to say, I want you to coach, and I want to take your training. So your question was, so training is going to be important. Now, you probably think you can do this on your own, and you might, but there's paperwork, there's contracts that he gives you, there's email templates, there's advanced strategies, there's all these things that you don't know about, right? And so go ahead and invest the money. You're going to get the money back tenfold, 15, 20-fold. But this knowledge, you've got to invest in this training. He keeps it simple. You could go to his YouTube and he can tell you what he's offering now. I'm sure it'll change. But so the thing for me that took me, because I told you so I'm different. Even though I liked you and I spent the money to do the on demand, that's just, I can learn that way. But when you offered the elite, I was like, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to do that.
You like more the in-person
I
style.
like the in-person, yeah. And so that is what allowed me to execute. The on-demand was great information. But this really, taking your elite course, for me, allowed me to execute. And And so I would just say that I think you do have to you got to get the training. You got to get the training. Don't make the mistakes that Nick has already made, right? He's made the mistakes. Don't learn from him and, keep it moving.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what I would say. Training is what, just took me to the next level because I've known about this for 3 years.
Uh,
And, like I said, was looking at somebody else's, it was PDFs, it was confusing. It was a lot of information. Here's all this information. It was a lot. And so, never did anything. Yeah.
what do they call that? Paralysis by analysis or something
Yeah,
like that?
exactly. Oh yeah, I have that. Trust me. I
I think we
definitely have
all
that.
suffer from that sometimes. So
Yeah. Yeah. But you just made it simple and it wasn't overwhelming. You put it in pieces and so you just made it more achievable than a PDF document with all this great content, but then you had to kind of put things together. So yeah.
well, cool. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I wasn't expecting that answer, but I
Oh no,
appreciate it.
it's true. It's my truth.
Thank you so much.
You got it. You got it.
Cool. Anything else that you want to share before we sign off? Again, I appreciate you
Um,
so much for taking the time.
yeah, I wrote just a few things. I want to see if I made sure I hit on anything. So setting time aside, share someone. Yeah, I just had here the importance of setting time aside is I think what because you even there was a gentleman that was working with you that was on the sales side, and so he kind of he put some just made me think about some things, just how important it is because he was sounds like he was more salesy type person, how important it is to be consistent.
Yes. Yep.
Be consistent on your calls. He even gave me a trick of pennies. So here's pennies right here. Look, I'm gonna show you. I've got about 100 pennies
Okay.
right here. And so anytime I make a contact, the pennies go to the right. So
Oh,
I can kind of see my progress, right?
uh-huh.
So
Interesting.
so anytime I make a contact, pennies go to, there's 100 pennies over here.
Uh-huh.
Anytime I make a contact, I'll put it, so an email, a phone, and so a good takeaway for me is what I wanted to share and what he helped me just to keep in mind is, and we talked about it a little, but being consistent with your activities.
Yeah.
So your husband, your children know that on Sundays, that on Saturdays, whatever it is, that for 3 hours, for 4 hours, you will not be available. And so, and then the pennies, it just gives you the visual
Yeah.
that you're doing something, right? You've
That you
got this
progress.
Excel spreadsheet, you can see it, but to see the progress. So that helped. Like, okay, so contacts, even if I send an email, that's a contact. So I think that helped me too, is just to keep the momentum and my traction going with making contacts.
That I have actually never heard of that, and I think that's brilliant. So
Yeah,
whoever shared that with you is brilliant because
yeah,
it's really like a mind. I mean, it's funny because I'm listening to a book. It's called Atomic Habits, and it talks
okay.
about building good habits and how a lot of us, we start, we have our New Year's resolutions, and then we fall off the wagon
Yeah.
because we don't see progress quick enough.
Mm,
But that penny example you give, that is brilliant because
yeah.
you're doing the work, you're also giving yourself a visual, showing your mind that
Yeah.
I'm making progress and I'm doing the
Yes.
that are going to yield the result. Like
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
that's brilliant. That is
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that helps. I think I would say that that's was pretty major, and a turning point is just consistent and these pennies, consistency in these pennies.
that's awesome. That's so
Yeah,
cool. I'm so glad you shared that because I've never heard of that before, but
yeah,
it makes perfect sense. It makes
it does.
you can see, oh, I'm making actual progress. It it motivates you to continue to do it. So
Yeah, it does, especially when you get phone calls or people hang up, you
yeah,
know, you know, people may curse you out, like all that stuff. And then, just to know that you're doing something good too, an overlay of that as you're making these phone calls will, keep you going. But I realize I don't like people to objections. Like I don't like to be rejected, I should say. I'm sensitive. I'm like, oh wow, she hung up on me, you know?
yeah,
Um, but you just gotta keep going. You just keep going. You just keep going. Yeah.
that's awesome. That's brilliant. I'm so glad you shared that. That's a huge gold nugget right there. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. The pennies, huh?
Yep, love it. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle. I appreciate
You
you
got it.
and taking the time. And thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.